Hey there, Megan Jansen with Employee Wellness Solutions Network. I am thrilled to have Pete Thomas on as my guest today as we continue the conversation of elevating the profile of health and wellness in our workplaces. Pete, thanks for being with me today.
Well, Megan, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Forgive me for looking a little rough with day for me. But I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to share some of the things that I've learned over the years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'll do a bit of an overview. You have quite the resume. First of all, you are an author of Lose It Fast, Lose It Forever.
Yes.
You're an expert presenter with the National Institutes of Health, World Obesity Congress, the American Heart Association. I could go on. You're also the at-home winner of NBC's The Biggest Loser.
Yes.
And I just don't, in terms of talking and sharing your story and your insights, let's start with, how do you feel the promotion of health and wellness in our workplaces is going, and how can we do more?
Well, interestingly enough, if we think about the time that the average person spends at work, they spend the majority of their time at work. So I have a little different opinion on this than most people do, right? And because I've traveled around the country and I've worked with employers, if we literally think about this, an employee is at their employer's office somewhere between 8 to 10 hours a day, or they're focused on getting to the job, working the job, and taking lunch and getting home about 8 to 10 hours a day. So in my mind, the employer is the ideal place for lifestyle change to happen, right? Because if you think about it, once I leave the office, I'm going to go home and I'm going to take care of the kids. I'm going to be involved in the family. I'm going to do all these I've got church activities, and then I'm sleeping for 8 hours a day at home. So I'm not engaged in any activity there. And so the prime place where change can occur, and the prime place of influence isn't from the political world. It's not from these other environments. The prime place for change or for really behavior modification to happen is where you spend the majority of your time. That is where the behavior modification happens. There was a recent study that talked about, actually not so recent now, that talked about sitting as the new smoking. They come up with all these new things. Well, where do we sit the most at? We sit the most at work. If you're in Silicon Valley, Silicon Valley has a premium on intellectual capital. So other things such as eating, there hasn't been that type of focus on healthy eating in the past. I can remember, I think it's Google or one of the other big companies, they said that food was within a certain number of feet from every employee, so that an employee could go and make sure that he's properly fueled, because intellectual capital was the thing that was looked out for the most. And so in my opinion, the employer, or right there where employers are, and right where employees are, is the prime place where we can have lifestyle change, positive or negative. You can have behavior modification. So in my opinion, employers, not the government, are the optimal place for change to happen.
I love that. And you touched on behavior modification and having the empowerment in oneself to make change. And I think there's also an argument or sort of a thought process to think about that peer-to-peer influence. If you know somebody in your workplace is making changes, healthy ones, you're absolutely more apt to talk more, be motivated, be wanting to make change as well.
That's right. Absolutely. And if you think about it, there's this saying called the water cooler conversation. So what is that water cooler conversation? This is really a community. It's a small community. There are people, your coworkers around you. And if you happen to be talking about the sporting events over the weekend, or you're talking about your children, what activities they're in, or you're talking about the work of the day, that environment, that work environment, is key for lifestyle change to occur. There's something called, of course, it's self-efficacy. Self-efficacy simply means that I see something in someone else, a change that someone else has made. That someone else is similar to me in the way that they live, the where they work. And as I see them begin to change, I then believe that I myself can change as well. And the employer world, the work world, is the primary place for this self-efficacy to kick in. Because if there's a properly organized and a properly run wellness program, then employers will reap the benefit of their employees just rubbing off on each other and doing amazing things together.
Well said. Absolutely. You touched on that senior leadership support, and you know as well as I know that is the absolute most important thing for a wellness program to take shape.
Absolutely.
And having that support and having employees feel like they're cared for is also an important part of it.
It absolutely is. One of the things you mentioned, you talked about senior leadership. John Maxwell has a famous saying that says, everything rises and falls on leadership. So it's absolutely essential that leaders are engaged and involved. But in my experience, traveling the country and doing different things with employers, even if the leadership isn't fully engaged, if the leadership is not the most outgoing, physically fit person, just starting a wellness program, what seems to happen is just that peer-to-peer engagement, as you mentioned, that bubbles up to the surface. And then, of course, if you got other things like gamification, where people just have fun reasons to do simple things, that can really change an organization for the better. So it's that peer-to-peer support. And if we can get the leaders to do something, if you have that leader saying, hey, we want to have this initiative, that's even a bonus thing. Absolutely.
So, Pete, you are an absolute motivator. You are an influencer for change from your personal story. What could an employer or an employee do to start to get control of how they feel personally within their own personal health and wellness? What could be the one thing that they could do?
Absolutely. Well, I say it like this. One, you have to determine that you won't determine I say it like this. You don't determine your destiny. You determine your habits, and your habits determine your destiny. So one of the things you mentioned, if I don't feel a certain way, then I want to start setting up habits that will help me to feel a different way. Because we have to understand that emotions are really biochemical reactions that go off in our body. So one of the simplest things that you can do is you can start to exercise. And exercise means I'm going to walk around the office first thing in the morning. On my breaks, I'm going to walk to the farthest bathroom. I'm going to park as far away as I can. I'm going to park in the farthest parking spot. I'm going to walk into the office, rain or shine. On lunch, I'm going to take a few extra steps on lunch. Once I begin to walk, endorphins and serotonin, these other chemicals will begin to be released in the body, and that has a positive effect on your mood, on your attitude. So that's really key. The other thing is grabbing a teammate to go with you. There are going to be simply days where I don't feel, I had this bad customer call me and it just put me in a bad place. I don't feel like walking. I feel like cursing, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to grab a teammate. If I've got a teammate near me who has agreed to take some of these walks with me, they're going to come by and they're going to tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, it's time to walk. And before I know it, I'm fuming at this last customer support call or this sale that didn't go well, whatever it may be. But I'm walking, right? Because I've got this teammate that has engaged me. So those are two key things. Number one, recognizing that activity literally has a positive effect on me. Number two, I like to say, teamwork, the old saying is teamwork makes the dream work, but gathering great teammates, people around you, how I say it, gather great teammates. And then I think the other thing is, there's a power and intention when you actually write down your goals. Mm. And most people I know, they set goals improperly. They set goals with these, really super aggressive dates. I'm going to do this by this date. Instead of focusing their goals on the lifestyle or the activities that will lead them to the eventual goal. For instance, let's say I've got a goal and I want to lose a couple of pounds, right? The way that I would structure that goal is I'm simply going to walk for 15 minutes every day on lunch. Because by focusing on the activity, the goal will naturally happen, right? The goal will naturally happen. And that applies to anything in the world of wellness. When you focus on the activity, the outcome is almost
is inevitable. The results will come. Absolutely. Right. Very, very well said. Pete, I love your message. Continue to be the dynamic motivator you are. And it's an honor for me to be able to share this passion of health and wellness with someone like you. So thanks so much for your time today, and keep doing the great work you're doing.
And you as well. Thank you so much for sharing this message again of employee wellness. As I said, it's something that's close to my heart because I believe that the workplace is the primary place that positive change can occur. But I don't know that employers really recognize their role in our lives. They're so essential to who we are and the things that we do. And I appreciate you working alongside of employers to make change possible.
Awesome. Well said. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.